special PLI schemes, an opportunity to support Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of making India a global. So to present on today's topic, we have a very eminent speaker who has more than 10 years of experience, both in India and also abroad. We have with the CA Gautam Pai. Welcome to you, Gautam Pai, sir, for today's study circle meet.
Thank you.
On behalf of Bangalore branch and also all managing committee members, we welcome you for today's session.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Divya ma'am. And thank you so much, Srinivas ji, actually, who is not here, for this opportunity again. Got a chance to speak before the members of the Bangalore branch a couple of months back in December. And we're actually expecting a few allocations in this budget. But
so post introduction, we'll start your session. So we also have our managing committee member Shripad. Welcome to you, Shripad, for today's session.
Thank you.
So members, we recently had a budget session, very short session we had on union budget program, but today we have also study circle meet, and to also to be useful for all the members, we have this Saturday whole day session on union budget update. So request all of you to please kindly register for that program. It will be held in a Vasant Nagar branch premises. Request all of you to kindly take part in it. Whole day we have that session. So also now I request Shripad to kindly give an introduction of our speaker and start the session.
Thank you. Yes, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. CA Gautam Pai. So Gautam has over 10 years of experience in inbound and outbound investment advisory, business advisory, government regulatory advisory, and of course, corporate tax advisory as well. He has an extensive experience in income tax and foreign exchange related matters, including structuring inbound, outbound investments into and from India respectively. He has been involved in assisting corporates from different sectors in availing government incentives, including Make in India, PLI schemes, and investment promotion schemes of different state governments. He has advised clients on entry and overseas acquisition strategy from tax and regulatory perspective, including capital structuring, entity selection, holding company jurisdictions, and so on. He has assisted startups from different sectors, mainly fintech, agri-tech, edtech, consumer tech, amongst others, in their fundraising exercises and supporting them with from finance and tax perspective as well. He has also advised clients on various corporate tax planning opportunities relating to investment for expansion of businesses. So Gautam has worked with a cross-section of Indian and global companies across various sectors like manufacturing, automotive, including electric vehicles, pharmaceuticals, textiles. He has dealt with Korean and Japanese corridor for various inbound and outbound investment opportunities. So with this brief introduction, I would like to welcome today's speaker, CA Gautam Pai. Over to you, Gautam.
Thank you so much for a detailed introduction, Shripad ji. Hi, thank you so much, Divya ma'am, for the for laying down the context. Hi everyone at the Bangalore branch. I'll just quickly share my screen, but before I do that, I'll quickly give a brief about what has been the idea behind the PLI scheme and why we started. So for thank you for this choosing me as a speaker for this niche topic on the production linked incentive scheme, because we have tried to support many manufacturing companies over a period of last couple of years, and happen to file for second highest number of applications for manufacturing entities across all the big fours as well. So we have filed about 120, 130 application and closely worked with multiple industry, right, and ministries as well, along with the project management agencies for execution of the production linked incentive schemes, right. And this is a very niche area, and this leads to a lot of opportunities for the chartered accounting communities and the peers around it. And I mean, from finance, operations, your statutory audit point of view as well. So with this, I'll just quickly lay down the context. and initiate the discussion. Just confirm me, Suraj, if you're able to view the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is the screen visible? Yeah, yes, sir. Is the screen visible? Awesome. Thank you. So, production linked incentive scheme, this PLI scheme came down somewhere in 2020, early 2020 for a couple of industries, one electronics, second pharmaceutical and medical devices. The reason of bringing this PLI scheme, why PLI scheme, I'll give you a brief in the introduction, right? We'll take you a glimpse about what has been, the agenda. Yeah, Suraj, please confirm if you're able to,
I can see, sir. Fine.
Sure. Hello.
It's audible.
Yes, sir. Fine, sir.
Okay, all right. So there are 5 parts that we have, I have divided into. The first part would be the introduction, where we'll discuss about the Make in India agenda and the reasons behind the PLI scheme and how it has been, right? Second, we'll take you through the PLI schemes which has already been notified till date. However, the application window is already closed. The reason behind this particular session is the opportunities which lies ahead for the new PLI schemes as well. The same was expected to be rolled out in the budget, but based on the recent discussions with the ministries, the same would be notified by relevant ministries while the cabinet has approved it. So that will be the list of existing PLI schemes as well as the new PLI schemes in pipeline. Then I'll take you through the structure of the PLI scheme in general, how it is framed, who are the agencies attached to it, who are the relevant persons, with whom you have to liaise with, etc. Someone has a question. Am I audible? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Sir,
You're audible, sir.
Audible, sir.
Okay, sorry. Someone wrote in the chat. No problem. All right. So third, basically, we'll take you through the structure in detail, the process, the issues that we have faced in the past, etc. So that if you are very well versed with the execution of the PLI schemes. An overview, basically, on the new PLI schemes in the pipeline and how is the the roadmap defined for the industries as well as the opportunities for the chartered accountants. Okay. Yeah. If you have any queries, please you can just bounce it off on the go, either on the chat pod, or you can just raise your hand and ask the questions. Happy to answer. So the PLI scheme came down during FY20 for the PLI for the electronics as well as for the bulk drug industry, wherein PLI scheme for PLI scheme for large scale electronic components was launched, and PLI scheme for bulk drugs and medical devices was launched. So this happened to be, a huge success because many of the players, large players, participated in this PLI scheme, and the approvals were allotted somewhere early in November, right? Due to which, the success of which laid down the new PLI schemes, which about 14 sectors they got notified. The reasons behind it, basically why it was required, the high imports. There was imports in large quantity. Even today, the raw materials for most of the industries, many industries, are being imported from countries, from the neighboring countries as well as from the West. That was one of the reason, wherein why there was a realization during COVID times. The healthcare industry realized that there were the raw materials basically on which the manufacturing of mainstream pharmaceutical goods were dependent, right? So that was majorly imported from China, and that was one of the reasons why we had to be dependent on outside countries. So high imports, lowest growth rate in the last few years, since 2013, the growth rate had fallen to its very lowest. So then ease of doing business, right? So the ease of doing business takes into consideration various factors when it comes to foreign direct investments, right, made in any countries. In this regards, there was a lot of need that aroused for bringing a change, right? So when we talk about the vision behind the PLI scheme, there were majorly 5 factors. First, to make India Atmanirbhar, that is self-dependent or maybe self-reliant, and that was the agenda behind framing the entire Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, of which PLI scheme was one of the things, one of the agenda. Second, making India a global manufacturing hub. There is a huge opportunity when there is a when there was when global, all the global economies were considering +1 strategy to China for procuring various manufactured goods from China, and considering other countries including India, Vietnam. So the prime idea behind this PLI scheme was to make India a global manufacturing hub in the years to come. Reduction in import dependency, right, as I mentioned previously. Focus on attracting large foreign investment, just in case one of the main pillars of growth would be foreign capital, and attracting foreign capital would mean reduction in tax, so making their return possible. So by giving incentives on revenue would definitely be one of the reasons why it would attract for large foreign investments. Helping India become an integral part of the global supply chain. So when there would be a push, since PLI scheme is linked to your revenue, there will be a push to the Indian manufacturers as well as global manufacturer to generate manufacturing revenue in India. Well, while it is available for both exports and domestic sales, this will help increase export sales. Thereby, it would help making India an integral part of the global supply chain. And in the recent times, there has been a lot of attraction of the foreign investment, not only in manufacturing industry but also in the service industry. So this is basically the reason, or maybe the breakup of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. There were 5 pillars to it. The first is economy, infrastructure, system, demographic, and demand. The reason which, based on these five pillars, there was an allocation of a stimulus of over 20.97 lakh crore during the COVID. And that was allotted in different tranches, which is highlighted here. But the reason behind this was purely to make India Atmanirbhar. They had allotted the stimulus to various industries as well as various sectors, giving a huge support to the MSMEs, right? Such as emergency working capital, providing launching fund of funds for various MSME, and already the same has been disbursed. Liquidity schemes, so many sectors got hit by COVID, including NBFCs, your fintech sector, your discom, etc., telecommunication. Due to which one of the push was provided to by way of the stimulus to help them liquidate. a lot of incentives and also the funding was provided to food processing. Even we were shocked that there were schemes like fund of funds for the agri-tech, right, PKMSY, again, a scheme to boost certain set of product, incentives given to food, micro enterprises, etc. Herbal cultivation got a lot of boost. Manrega also was a part of allocation, and PLI schemes got 1.97 lakh crores. So basically, for 1.97 lakh crore was divided into various sectors. They defined 14 sectors, and till date, about 15 to 16 PLI schemes have been notified. But the same has been based on those 5 pillars only: economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant demography, and the demand. So demand is already there. The thing is that we need to boost up. Genesis. So this is quite important for you to, while you are evaluating any of the PLI scheme, you need to understand what is the reason behind it, so that adequate guidance or maybe advice can be made to the set of clients and the manufacturing entities. Objective behind the PLI scheme is to boost up the core competencies in this digital era and advancement in tech. It is quite important to challenge the status quo, right, and get the technology in India. Thereby, so definitely there has been a rise in the entrepreneurs and their capability. But the thing is that it should not be a mere assembly. There has to be a core competencies of the Indian industries. Boost global presence through exports. If Indian companies has to make up recognition in the overseas market, it has to build up Indian brands, right, which can be marketed overseas. So currently, the push has been given for PLI scheme for food processing industry, okay, wherein incentive has been provided to branding and marketing of various products, food products outside India, which includes marine products, ice cream, etc. Creating economies of scale through efficient processes. So there's no doubt about it that the Indian ecosystem has its manufacturing capabilities, but the economies of scale would achieve only once there is central government builds funds various incentives by way of PLI scheme or attracting new investments through state industrial policies, etc. So increase in scales is quite important, and that would happen through efficient processes. Encouraging innovative technology, building up technology, and right from raw materials to finished goods should be manufactured in India. So that would help boost the Indian supply chain. Expected large investments. So by notifying the PLI schemes and starting the disbursements from this year, they are expecting large investments up to $30 billion across sectors, and they are expecting an incremental turnover of $5 billion across sectors. And based on this only, they will be providing the incentives. Of course, this has to go along with the global trends, including the ESG goals as well. By way of new investments, there will be new employee generation as well, which is expected to be over 6 million jobs over a period of next 5 to 6 years, right? And when I mention about technologies, there has been a lot of tech development, be it startup or be it new technologies including artificial intelligence or blockchain. Space tech startups has been in fact in Bangalore as well through a space Pixel has demonstrated that space tech could also be built up in India. So with this, I'll just give you a brief glance about the schemes which are already notified, right? And the quantum of budgeted outlay. So the largest scheme was that of large-scale electronic manufacturing. The budgeted outlay was 40,951 crores. The disbursal have already been started for this. Companies like, Dixon, have already got the incentive, and couple of others have already got the incentive for the first year that disbursal has happened, and which will, at the end of the day, it's the money that has to flow in, and with the disbursals happening, the industry is also getting confident that yes, PLI scheme can work. Bulk drug medical devices, again, from the scheme has been issued by the Department of Pharmaceuticals with a budgeted outlay of 490 crores and 3,000 crores respectively. Then followed, and all the other schemes were followed, which were notified somewhere in November 20. The budgeted outlay was allotted in November 20. Post that, the schemes got notified as and when the ministries approved their relevant PLI schemes. So telecom and networking products, pharmaceuticals, it was again a huge success, 15,000 crores. I'll go into the depth of it, shortly, of the relevant PLI schemes. IT hardware, again, it falls under MIT. So MIT has been quite active in building up the electronics and bringing in technology in India. One of the reason why they have selected this. Food processing industries, again, food processing industries has been a huge success. 10,900 crores disbursals started already. But the thing is that there has been new opportunities in these existing PLI schemes as well, wherein if there is a budget remaining, so then they'll issue new PLI schemes. White goods, which includes air conditioning components, and LED components, which is about 6,238 crores. And now there may be a chance where refrigerating industry could also get an incentive on their components. Some of the PLI schemes are for only high-end players and large manufacturers. Hence, for example, high efficiency solar PV modules manufacturing, auto components, ACC battery, when only 3 got the approval. Then PLI for textile, again, it took a bit of time to launch and get a commitment from many industry players. There has been a budget which is remaining, and it is expected that PLI scheme for textile 2 will be notified shortly. Specialty chemical also didn't get the relevant attraction which was expected, but then the specialty chemical, specialty steel, the steel industry revised the PLI scheme so as to make sure that many MSMEs fall part of it, and they fall within set criteria to bring in new investments. So it was revised, relaxed, and a new PLI scheme for steel was launched, got good success. 50-60 companies applied, 54-55 companies applied for it. Drone components, this was a kind of an interesting scheme which they launched, though the quantum, if you can see, it's just 120 crores. But it was at a very nascent stage. It got notified along with PLI for auto, and therefore many drone players were quite interested. We were in fact we were the consultant who kind of supported the Drone Federation of India in helping down this from the regulatory point of view, and supported many drone companies. So this was an interesting one. The news is basically they'll be expanding the budget because it got a lot of interest. About 26 companies, 27 companies got approved, and they were kind of the approved applicants under the PLI scheme for drones. Shipping container. So these are the proposed PLI schemes, honestly, and everything is in the news. But notification is yet to roll out, right? So these are actually the opportunities which either of you should be looking at as a consultant, or maybe even as a manufacturer, if someone is there as a manufacturer. So the PLI scheme for shipping containers, I'll discuss in detail later on. IT hardware, right? There'll be another set of products which will be notified, which may include your wearables and hearables, along with other set of raw materials, or maybe the components of those of such products. Leather and footwear may get a budget. Pharmaceuticals, basically, it is expected that the vaccine of or maybe the raw materials for manufacturing these vaccines may get additional budget of 5,000 crores. Specialty chemicals could be considered as the most awaited PLI scheme. The budget is it's expected that it's over 5,000 to 10,000 crores, which will be allotted, but there will be many manufacturers who would be interested. So this could be a good target area. Textile to PLI, it is expected for the PLI scheme for textile to roll out for apparels and garments and some of the accessories, because the earlier PLI scheme was notified only for the components of man-made fibers and technical textiles. There were certain set of products which got the nod, but for for the what do you say, apparels and garments, there will be a new set of PLI scheme, and there will be large number of applicants. Even MSMEs can participate. Bicycles, furnitures may also get a nod, but that is of course less likely, but it is in the news. So relevant industries are anyways or maybe pitching through their set of associations for bringing the PLI scheme for manufacturing. Toys for sure is expected. The reason behind for this PLI scheme for toy to come down is because many of the current manufacturers of toys are getting imported. I mean, they're importing from China, and the products which are getting imported from China are not only imported in large quantities, but they are not also they are harmful, right? And which is not good for the younger generation to consume as well, play with. And hence, this is one of the critical agendas why this could be a huge industry, and which could get a boost by way of the PLI scheme. So PLI scheme for toys, it is expected and highly likely to come down. Apart from these, there would be existing there would be existing PLI schemes, or maybe the industries wherein there is an extra budget. The products which may include is marine from food industry, nutraceuticals which can come down from food industry, space tech industry has also made a presentation for rolling out a PLI scheme for their components of space products. Petrochemicals and hydrogen cell fuel vehicles may also get a nod. So yeah, a lot of opportunities on this side. Okay. These are just the relevant news article for these set of PLI schemes. Happy to share this deck with you. Yeah, again, proposed PLI schemes for toys, leathers and footwears, specialty chemicals, and shipping containers. Shipping containers, because India is currently a net importer of shipping container, and the reason behind this is due to the Russia-Ukraine war. The import of shipping container was a challenge, and therefore there was a dependency considering that Indian demand itself. So the quantum of the incentive is low, but it is expected to be rolled out for shipping containers as well. Yeah. So any questions till now on why PLI schemes, and why any questions till now, or maybe then I'll move on to the structure of what are the thoughts you'll have to go through it before you evaluate the PLI scheme, and you help the manufacturers in availing the incentives. So, yeah. All right. So no questions. I'll just quickly move on to defining the structure. So while you are reading the PLI scheme, or maybe evaluating, so every PLI scheme would have its own set of guidelines, notifications. Yeah, so every PLI scheme would have its own set of guidelines and notification, right? So while evaluating, or while studying the PLI scheme, you'll have to read few set why this PLI scheme, and also consider other points for consideration. So the reason of bringing this PLI scheme was, first of all, the MEI scheme got withdrawn, right? And there was other export-linked incentives which also got withdrawn due to the, it was not in compliance with the WTO guidelines. So merchandise export incentive schemes was there earlier for exports, and that was the reason why the Indian government had to bring in some set of scheme which could boost exports, give exports, but at the same time be WTO compliant. So while framing the PLI scheme, this is not an export linked scheme, but it would be giving an incentive on the exports as well, because it would be linked to manufacturing. So it has to be compliant with the WTO guidelines. So while most of you would be aware about that, there is a new the income tax rate would be 15% for the new manufacturing companies. That tax holiday is extended anyways, but for setting up any new manufacturing companies, the income tax rate is reduced to 15%. So this scheme is particularly in addition to the other incentive which is provided by the state governments, as well as on setting up the new infrastructure and the new manufacturing unit. So this is in addition to that, and any other scheme which is being provided, which is being notified by the central government. There is a phased manufacturing plan for programs for various industries, including auto, for example, electric vehicles. So they started earlier with bringing the phased manufacturing program for certain set of components of electric vehicles which were highly imported and not manufactured in India. So the idea was to gradually increase the custom duty over a period of time, and by that time there are Indian manufacturers who can manufacture those products in India. So PMP has been taken as one of the routes for some set of sectors, right? Revenue linked incentive. So this is basically a revenue linked incentive, and therefore it will be taxed as income from other sources in your profit and loss account. China +1 strategy. So yes, so global MNCs are in fact considering India as an alternative destination apart from Vietnam and other APAC countries as well. So for this, so basically it's a competition, and therefore even you would see that many states are also fighting for it. So if you look at the Indian geography, large number of applicants under the PLI scheme have been based out from Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, many from Uttar Pradesh as well, right? And every state is promoting their state to be one of the states where they could set up new manufacturing, invest. So it is in competition in itself. So this is one of the good things that happened, right? And this is happening in India, where states are promoting, right? Industrial park has also been set up for some of the sectors, which is textiles, food, bulk drugs, in fact even toys, pharmaceutical, etc. And so they would be also providing subsidized rate of electricity, other incentives to set up new investments in those set of parks. And because the same would be subsidized by the relevant ministries, right? Apart from these, there are other set of incentives which are also being provided by, or maybe you can say relevant government, including specs. So specs came down somewhere in along with the large scale electronic PLI scheme, wherein they would be providing 25% of the capex on the electronic components, right, in semiconductors. So their extension is, the last date is 31st March 23, and the incentive will be provided for 5 years. But this is one of the other schemes which is also been notified. So it is quite important that when you are evaluating PLI scheme, you should also look at other PLI, other incentives and the project in detail. So it will be more of a project-driven advisory rather than a regulatory advisory. Yeah. So one question is, PLI scheme will face any hurdles under WTO structure? No. Actually, this is a solution to the erstwhile MEI scheme, and therefore this will be WTO compliant because this is not providing direct export linked incentive. It is providing incentive on the revenue. That is manufacturing revenue, which any country could give to boost up their economic economy in their respective region. Yeah. So basically these are the general parameters that I have highlighted, because while you are reading the PLI scheme, these are the certain set of concepts that you have to look at while evaluating. So right from defining your investment threshold, because PLI scheme for any PLI scheme there would be an investment link criteria. So what are the thresholds for those minimum fixed investment that we'll have to do? What are the eligible products which will get an incentive under the PLI scheme? Okay, because only certain set of products they've made it eligible, and thus the idea behind, the strategy behind selecting those products are they have selected only those set of products which are imported in very high quantity in India. And currently, India is dependent on overseas market. Okay. Yeah, sure. So I'll be discussing PLI scheme for 3-4 industries separately. So I'll take you through that. So once I am able to give you in general brief. Eligible committed investment. So in any PLI scheme, you'll have to commit an investment. And because the commitment is important while you are making an application. Therefore, what is the investment that is committed, which will be backed by a bank guarantee going forward. Importance of documentation and certification. This is also quite important because we have seen cases where the approvals have been rejected just because there has not been any proper documentation and there has been a mismatch in the data provided in the certificates as well as the data provided elsewhere, that is online. Okay. Then there will be selection criteria under the PLI schemes, right? So this will be scheme specific, and it would be scheme specific as well as it would be a type of company. So there would be certain criteria different for MSMEs as well as that would be different for other group of companies. Eligible applicants for filing an application under the PLI scheme, because this would also be different for various other companies, various PLI schemes, because certain set of applicants which would include corporates, MSMEs, etc. Because the idea behind overall PLI scheme is to build champions, right? And while they will be giving majority of incentives to the larger corporates to build up larger companies, there would be a set of incentives which will be also provided to MSMEs. Okay. Gestation period, these are just the key definitions. Gestation period is basically the period within which you'll have to do the investment. So once the approval is received, you'll have to come do an investment within that specified period. That is called a gestation period. Base year is basically the year which will be taken as a base for computing the incentives. So it will be, the incentive is generally on the incremental sales. Sorry, it's on the incremental sales, and the incremental sales will be computed for that particular set of product as compared to that in the base year. Okay, and for generally for all the PLI scheme, the base year was FY20, which was the last normal year, FY20. FY21 was not a normal year, due to COVID. And which was impacted, and therefore the last year was FY20. Group company, this is quite important because it is in normally all the PLI scheme they have defined group companies so as to make sure that only one company out of other companies get the incentives, right? And not there are a group of companies who get the incentive. There are instances where structuring has been done, But the reason this is quite important from PLI standpoint, because the transactions entered into after also receipt of PLI schemes, including RPT and all, that would matter a lot for competition. Global manufacturing revenue, this is important because this has to be certified by your relevant auditor, and this will give backup to the incentive competition. Minimum domestic valuation, not all the PLI scheme has a criteria, but this is a criteria which is prevalent in some of the PLI schemes, including bulk drugs, your automotive components, your PLI scheme for drones, etc. So for some set of domestic validation needs to be there. For example, in textile also, minimum domestic value addition has to be there of 30% and 60% in case of single and multi process multi-process schemes, multi-process processes for manufacturing the products. So so this has to be also evaluated, because minimum domestic value addition has been brought in to challenge the industries to push forward and build up that entire value chain in India, procure from the Indian manufacturers so as to create a high domestic value addition. These are the key authorities, more or less the 4 key authorities involved, out of which we generally have to interact with 2 of them. The relevant ministry are actually the decision makers of the PLI schemes. So basically, the cabinet is the one who approves the budget, and they allocates the budget to the relevant industry and the ministry. The ministry are the ones who gets the budget from the cabinet, and they are the one who issues the guidelines, regulates the relevant PLI schemes for their particular sector, and are the ones who gives an approval to the applicants, etc., based on the criteria. So it's up to the ministry there. So the relevant ministry would be the heart for would be deciding authority for that particular PLI scheme. EGOS is nothing but the empowered group of secretaries who would actually be deciding or maybe making critical changes to the budget. If there are any changes which is required in the guidelines, or if there are changes required in the budget allocation, that will go to the empowered group of secretaries, where all the relevant ministries or secretaries of relevant ministries come down and they make a decision together. This is being chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister. Then project management agency, any PLI scheme, so in general, all the PLI schemes have been, in all the PLI schemes, they have appointed project management agency to run or maybe, to process all the applications, to verify all the documents, submissions, verify all the investments, make a confirmation on the revenue, etc., compile, for all the data with respect to the progress, QRRs, etc. Basically, the agency would execute the PLI schemes or process the PLI scheme on behalf of the relevant ministries. Okay, and the PMA reports to the relevant ministry. In general, you would have seen in the past that the 2 major agencies, one is the IFCI, who has got majority of the PLI schemes, who have built up a huge team. Of course, they're backed by government. It's a government arm. And second is SIDBI or Midcon for certain set of industries. Okay. Then there's a technical committee. So this is, they are the ones who, for certain set of ministries, they are the ones who suggest or maybe gives guidance to the ministries to define which all eligible products should be included, which all should not be included, etc. And therefore, they are the ones who are not coming on face, and we do not know who is the technical committee and who is advising the relevant ministry. They could be either of the industry members or ex-officials. Okay. Yeah. The general process flow chart. So we'll just quickly take you through the process flow, how it works. Consider, so going forward also, just consider this as a project management exercise rather than just a regulatory advisory or maybe regulatory exercise wherein we prepare file applications, liars. Right? It's not only that, we will have to evaluate from different standpoints and advise clients on the project itself, because it's a new investment linked PLI scheme, and it's not only that the manufacturers would set up a new plant just because of the PLI scheme. There is a demand, there is a expansion possible. They would have the financial capability, and that's the reason why they would be setting up or maybe expanding their existing horizon. And PLI scheme is just a part of it, not the entire. So our idea should be, we should kind of advise on the entire part of it. So so process flow, you'll have to do a detailed out application online. Right. Every PLI scheme would have its own website where you'll have to file the documents online, make a submission along with the expression of interest and the detailed project report. Okay. Once that is done, on the backend side, the ministry, also the PMA, will verify its correctness and see to it that they would not they would not get the eligibility, but they'll see that whatever data has been requested for, they are not ineligible on the on a high level basis. If they are ineligible and they verify, they find various issues in the application itself. So in that case, they'll send it back to you to resubmit the information within a period of 15 days. Once you resubmit and once all the documents are in tandem, they'll acknowledge, they'll give the number, which will be then processed. Okay. There will be a detailed appraisal done by the PMA. They'll do the evaluation and see to it, who should be the approved applicants. Okay. Then it will be in sync. So basically, even Invest India is a part of it. So Invest India advises and plays a crucial role in formation of the guidelines, as well as doing the industry research and also evaluating the set of applications. So detailed appraisal is being done by the project management agency in sync with Invest India, and they submit the appraisal report to the final ministry for their final review. They consider the recommendation, but at the end of the day, it is their final call to make, because there might be certain ifs and buts, for the applicants, because ministry would look at from India's standpoint that which all companies are eligible and which all companies which they should be considering. Final letter is being issued. So once finished reviews, they give the final letter. Before issuance of final letter, generally it happens that it is out in the news. They do a press release, give the list of approved applicants by way of press release. And once that is done, within a period of 7 days, they issue an acceptance letter to the approved applicants. But I mean, they till date, they haven't done any kind of a rejection letter to any kind of approved applicants, because they have kept industry players waitlisted, but they have not yet rejected. So once that is done, then there's a normal process of quarterly review reports which will have to file on a quarterly basis. Annual submissions of disbursal application needs to be done. Factory visits, etc., would be there, but that's a routine process that before disbursal of any claims. Okay. Yeah, so you would understand that all the relevant ministries functions from Delhi, and therefore all the PLI schemes has to be all the PLI scheme has to be implemented from the central government, and therefore it's quite important for someone to if someone is advising, it's quite important to have that connect in Delhi who can respond to the queries, respond to the clarifications if any required from the relevant ministries. So that connection is required, and that plays an important role here. Structured approach, project implementation. So basically this is how we follow. You could have your own thoughts, but this is how we follow the entire project. We manage the entire project. The first phase is the application phase, or you can define it as the pre-application phase. The second phase is the post-application phase, right? Wherein, after filing the application, there is an approval which is received. So this the milestone is the approval. Then there's a phase three is basically the disbursal phase, or you can say an annual returnership phase, of which is post-approval. In the first phase, that's where you should spend more time on phase app one, that is application, wherein we'll conceptualize and formulate strategy for the applicant. You'll see to it that what is the probability that the company will get an approval. There will be a high probability or feasibility of that particular project. Okay, not only from PLI standpoint, but also from the standpoint of other state government incentives, the feasibility from finance angle, operations, etc. Step two is basically the implementing. So once you decide that yes, this is eligible and we the application should go ahead with, there will be a detailed out implementation wherein you'll have to file, or when you'll have to prepare the necessary documents, wherein you'll have to prepare the detailed project report, make a detailed out application form, file form online, and coordinate with the relevant project management agencies. Step three, so basically phase two is quite crucial, wherein you closely work with the project management agency and the relevant ministry to respond to their queries, clarification, because this is quite crucial. And we have to deliver or query responses to the queries on time. Post-approval compliances. So once you get the approval, right? So you'll have to do the post-approval compliances, which includes getting the bank guarantee done, signing of the consent for consent to factory visit, etc. The step 5 and step 6 is basically on the disbursals, which you'll have to do on an annual basis. So as I mentioned, it's a quarterly review reports you'll have to file. If they ask for status update, that is generally done on a time-to-time basis. It's the PMA who will be one point of contact for you. The manufacturing company or the applicant entity. Yeah, this is just a detailed out brief about what I just discussed. The application, right? Phase 2 is the post-application, and phase 3 is the post-approval compliances. Yeah, so now we'll just quickly take you through the selection criteria and the incentive criteria, because there are two types of criteria. The one is the selection criteria, which is basically whether the company is eligible to file an application or not. Okay, and while filing the application, whether they'll get selected or not. So it's important for the applicant to understand or maybe evaluate the feasibility of the approvals. Okay, so feasibility of they receiving the approval. So one is the selection criteria. Eligible products. There are the list of eligible products which should be manufactured, and they generally consider selection based on whether the company is manufacturing those set of eligible products or not. Okay. Minimum sales and investment threshold. So they generally provide sales threshold and investment threshold depending on scheme to scheme basis, of course. So there's a minimum sales criteria and minimum investment criteria done over a period of last 3 years. For example, in white goods, there was a minimum sales criteria for large investment as well as for normal investments. Okay, and also there was a minimum gross block, that is minimum investment done over a period of last 3 years. Okay, so this is one of the criteria. Lawful applicant. So any company cannot apply, right? If the company has been, the applicant has been declared as bankrupt or a willful defaulter in the recent past by any of the bankers or the financial institution, then there would be an issue. So while they would consider the application, but they would prefer other companies over the concerned applicant. There are other criteria which includes global net worth. There were other criteria including, for example, there are special criteria for for PLI for food processing, wherein they give incentives to the innovative company, including assessment of innovativeness, USP, etc. Right. So the selection, selection criteria, which also includes your historical minimum revenue, historical minimum investment threshold, etc. So and the incentive. So once the company is selected, once the approval has been given, then there is an incentive criteria. So you'll get an approval letter which will have its own set of conditions. The condition which would be based on the guidelines. So the Bible of the PLI scheme would be the guidelines, and therefore there would be incentive criteria which will be based on minimum investment threshold or minimum sales threshold. There has to be a timely and effective documentation. You'll have to get the auditor certificates of for defining or maybe ascertaining the revenue, as well as anything related to finance of financials of the company, which includes but not limited to the DVA, that is domestic value addition, CAGR, etc. Eligible investment. So generally it is new investment which is considered. First, new plant and machinery is only included. Second-hand plant and machinery is not included in either of the PLI schemes, and it's the same story when it comes to your state-driven industrial policies, wherein only new plant and machinery are included. So the exclusions are: land is not included, second-hand plant and machinery is not included, your recreational facility is not included, office building is not included, if there any expenditure on consumables, that is also not included. Any intangibles they have not considered, such as goodwill, etc. Know-how for acquiring technology can be considered. So what is included is new plant and machinery, associated utilities, if there are any essential equipment in operational areas such as clean rooms, water, power supply, etc. Those set of utilities are included. They also include factory building, or you may call it as a technical civil works, right? The expenditure on construction of building where new plants and machines are included. Okay. Research and development to a certain extent is included. Okay. But mainly for associated utilities, building, research and development, they have capped. In certain of the PLI scheme, they have capped that only 20% of the overall expenditure in plant and machinery will be considered for R&D, so that you'll have to structure it accordingly. So there's a limit on those set of categories. So documentation and certifications, this is quite important, as I mentioned previously, right? You'll have to submit the documents on time and also make timely payment of fees, application fee on the online portal. Because in the recent past, what has happened in PLI scheme portal, there is a couple of instances wherein two companies filed the application before the due date, but they've paid the application fee on the last date of the due date, which was a weekend, and it got cleared on the next working day, which was Monday, and that is after the date of filing of, the last date of application window. So, just because the payment got credited in the bank account of the government a day later, they kind of rejected, or maybe they didn't consider these couple of companies in getting the approval, right? So the incentive quantum is quite the incentive loss was quite high in terms of crores. So the documentation would include, I've brought it into 4 parts. One is CS, company secretarial documents, financial documents, internal undertakings, which has to be availed from the management of the company, and external documents which has to be availed from the statutory auditor or the maybe chartered engineer in certain cases, and the company secretary if there are any. So CS documents will include your corporate document, which includes PAN, COI, SIN number, the proof, MOA, AOA, the profile of the partners, their authentication. One important thing which I haven't highlighted, but it's the detailed project report, which is the heart of the PLI scheme, wherein you'll have to so basically the detailed project report consists of the feasibility of the project, right? Why this project is coming into existence from finance, operations, and your regulatory perspective. What are the timelines of the project? What is the sources of finance that will be required to do the project debt equity, right? What are the challenges faced, risk analysis, etc. It's a proper DPR that we need to prepare, and that would form the heart of the PLI scheme. Partnership deed, in case of partnership firm, details of subsidiary, MSME registration, if any, because of course, because if there's an MSME, you'll have to file the same. Financial details, this is a historical document that you'll have to provide. One is the historical annual reports, at least 3 years. This would basically be a backup for their selection criteria, financial projections for the future coming year. So based on the projections, they'll define the estimated revenue, and based on the revenue, they'll compute the estimated amount of incentive outgo, right? And this is quite important, that's why. So while framing while giving the approvals, they'll give the budget allocations based on the revenue. CBIL report they generally ask for, because CBIL, that will give a history of financial history and the debt commitments of the company, whether they're able to honor it or not. Internal undertakings, that's a standard thing. They have to self-certify. They have to give the integrity undertaking. They'll have to give the undertaking to give a physical consent to physical audit of the facility, because when you're setting up a new manufacturing plant, the PMA can come down anytime during the period. Of course, they'll give a prior intimation, but they can come down anytime to evaluate the status of the project, take some photographs, etc. Non-defaulted undertaking, etc. would be there. External documentation would include, for any financial related submissions. For example, profit and loss accounts, bank balance sheet of the new entity, or maybe the new project. They'll ask for statutory auditor certificate, and that's where you will also play a good role as a chartered accountant. In order to define, there are various formats for investment in plant and machinery, your net sales revenue and net worth certificate from when you will actually require a certificate from the auditor, etc. For CS, so basically certificate from CS is also required for certain set of documents. Okay, along with chartered engineer certificate for for defining the or maybe confirming the investment in plant and machineries. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, yeah, I'll just have a couple of things. So critical terms and conditions. So I've just broadly divided this into 8 points. So for while approving the PLI, while approving the applicants, they also look at the good character and whether the company and the promoters of the company are not bankrupt, or maybe are not having a willful defaulter with either of the banks. They are able to honor their projects. It's a growth company, etc. So while there are restrictions on the selection criteria, but they on a general basis they are also prefer good character companies as compared to the other companies. RPT is quite tracked, and the transaction has to be at arm's length, right? So basically, for determining the incentives on revenue, they'll evaluate the RPT as compared to their third-party sales, right? So they would not, if you're selling the products to the RPT at a price higher than that you're selling it to the third party, then they'll consider the sales made to a third party while they're computing sales of the made while they're computing sales made to the related parties. There's no particular computation of arm's length as that mentioned in the income tax or maybe any other law, but they're considering arm's length transaction. That's what they are mentioning in majority of the PLI schemes. Expenditure and investment. So basically, all eligible applicants shall be ranked on the basis of the marks. So they have given marks to various selection criteria, and based on which they will be ranked. Of course, if there are less than basically the number of applicants are not fulfilling all the budget, they'll give approval to everyone. But if there are if all the applicants, if given an approval, will exhaust the budget, then they'll give ranks to certain set of applicants, and they'll give approvals to those set of applicants, and that's where actually the licensing happens. New plant and machinery, no second plant and machinery is allowed. changes in ownership. So if there is any change in ownership after receiving the approval and during the project, in that case, you might have to approach the central government, because what will happen is that in case of change in ownership, there will be, and basically you'll have to intimate the government, so that once you receive the PLI scheme approval, it is the responsibility of the existing promoter to run the company. And if it is changing, then it has to be implemented. So generally it is, they mention approval, but it is kind of an intimation. Incentive lapse. So for example, if you are not able to meet any kind of an investment or incentive threshold, revenue threshold for any particular year, so for that year, the incentive will get lapsed. It will not, lapse the incentive which you can get for the next years or the remaining years. Refund of incentives. So if any of the, if the numbers are for forced, or maybe any of they are increased, an incentive is availed on those wrongful information or submission, then the government or maybe the ministry can pull back the money with interest, which is along with interest, which is generally calculated at 3 years SBI MCLR rate. Invoking bank guarantee, generally it doesn't happen. But for example, if the investment is not committed, not as committed, right, then and they fail to do the minimum investment, in that case, the PMA and the ministry has the full authority to invoke the bank guarantee, right, which is generally in the range of 1 to 2% of the overall investment committed. Yeah. So these are certain set of issues and challenges which we have faced. It's not that these cannot be tackled, but these are challenges which we have faced. So stringent timelines. So during the implementation or maybe execution of the PLI schemes, there has been very stringent timelines when it comes to deliverable. So there would be cases where the PMA or the ministry would request for multiple information with in next couple of days, or maybe in a day or two, etc. So those timelines are irrational sometimes, and for stringent. Okay. So for example, in one point of contact. So in many of these cases, it has happened that the point of contact has changed multiple times. The reason being there is an internal shift or maybe internal change in department of the relevant project management agencies. Repetitive information requested. There has been bulky. So it's a task, and bulky compliance and repetitive information has been demanded over a period of time. We don't have the option but to provide it, and so it's quite important that you are aware about the facts of the case, what all the information you have submitted in the past, and what all information needs to be submitted, right, which is not duplicating in the as compared to the information submitted earlier. Coordination with stakeholders. This involves number of agencies, statutory auditors, your chartered engineers, your investment banker, your finance team, your operations team, and as a consultant or even as a applicant, you'll have to coordinate with multiple agencies so that everyone is at the, everyone is standing at one page. Format of historical information. So basically you'll have to keep your books of accounts in lines with those as required by the PMA or the ministry. So they have built up an ERP system which should be in lines with yours. So it's a kind of a challenge, not an issue, but yeah, it's a challenge. So that all the information is being tracked at one place by the central government. Right. So, so any questions till now, or for going forward, I'll just take you through maybe 2 or 3 PLI schemes, and then maybe discuss the opportunities around it. So, any questions till now? Happy to answer. Okay, so then I'll just move on, taking you through to at least 2 to 3 PLI schemes. I'll take you through PLI scheme for food, PLI scheme for auto, and PLI scheme for drone components. Okay. So the idea, also the objective is to be defined for each and every PLI scheme. Okay, and that's how you will reach out to those set of companies or the clients. So the objective for this particular PLI scheme was to, first of all, build up global food manufacturing champions, build or maybe spread the word of Indian brands overseas, increase, of course, employment opportunities in India for the off-farm products, off-farm jobs, and increase or maybe remunerate the farmers of their produce and increase their income, right? So by doing so, when the prices of the final products get increased, they can increase the final products and they can get remunerated by way of the PLI scheme incentives. That will in turn go down to deep to the for raw materials or the farmers. So this was brought somewhere in it was notified in April 9th of April 2021. 10,000 crore of incentive was notified, right? And so there was PLI scheme for food processing industry, post which there was a balance of budget, and that's why recently they had brought in PLI scheme for millets. Okay, the approvals has already been allotted for both the PLI scheme, and it is already running. The application window for both the schemes has been closed, but there is still a budget remaining, for which we expect a new PLI scheme to be launched, which would be PLI scheme for nutraceuticals. Okay, nutraceutical products, maybe wines or maybe some marine products. So that's not in the news, but that is expected. So basically for this particular scheme, there were 3 product categories. So product category 1 included RTC, RTE products, food processing, marine, and mozzarella cheese. So there were 4 subcategories of category 1, wherein large companies applied for it. There were minimum investment criteria. Okay, so basically it was ranked based on a certain set of parameters, and those parameters including revenue of the base year, export sales of the base year, committed investments, the new committed investments, the investment already made till date, the availability of funds, and the CAGR. So CAGR of the proposed years. And there are larger set of companies, including Amul, which applied for more than one category in category 1, subcategory in category 1. They applied for RTC, RTE, food processing, and also mozzarella cheese. There were companies like ITC, Britannia, Dabur, Choice, marine products from the south have also. A lot of companies have applied under category 1, subcategory 3, marine products, right? Majorly they're exporting, but they're getting incentives, right? So that was one major chunk of incentives to category 1 products. Category 2 was for for 2. One is innovative products, and second is manufacturing organic products. So only, I guess, couple of companies got approval under the innovativeness. Organic, there were a lot of companies which got the approval. Category 3 is for incentive on branding and marketing. Okay, many companies got the approval. So basically, this is a special incentive which they provided under the scheme, wherein if you are doing branding and marketing overseas for an Indian branded or manufactured product, in that case, you'll get the incentive on the cost, that is revenue, on the expenditure did outside. And it was, it was 50% of those expenditure, which was quite substantial. The total number of approved applicants, was huge. 149 companies got approved, and the incentive quantum for the products have been mentioned, which was in the range of 8 to 10% for RTC, RT, 8 to 10% again for foods, fruits and vegetables. For marine, it was 4 to 6%, and for mozzarella again was 4 to 10%. So, so quite a decent amount of incentives was provided here. Yeah. So selection criteria. So basically, it was a ranking-based system wherein some set of companies didn't got the approval under category 1 and category 2. The reason being they had already applied. They were not falling under that selection criteria. Yeah. PLI scheme for auto and auto components. Okay. So erstwhile, so the incentive quantum for this particular PLI scheme was 56,000 crores earlier. Okay. However, it got reduced to about 25.9, basically 25.9 thousand crores. Just to focus on the e-mobility, and therefore the scheme was, completely redesigned by the secretary to incentivize the AAT components. So when I say AAT means advanced automotive tech components only. Okay. So there are two parts to it. One is they have given incentive to the OEMs, that is original equipment manufacturers. Second is component manufacturers. So they call it as a champion OEM scheme, and they call it as a component champion incentive scheme. Okay. So in both, they have kept a minimum, domestic validation criteria of 50%, which is in lines with the other scheme, which is called the FAME policy. So both the incentive schemes, so FAME policy gives incentives to the consumer, whereas PLI scheme would give incentive to the component of the manufacturers. So for the target segment for the champion OEM was battery electric vehicles, BEV, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, passenger, commercial vehicles, etc. all were covered. So this also include Bharat Forge, Maruti Suzuki, Ashok Leyland, Rajesh Motors, Hero Electrics, Hero Motocorp, Kia Motors, Boom Motors, etc. Component champion. Any of the components, so basically which is defined as an advanced automotive tech, AAT components, by the agencies which has been identified by the central government. If those set of components are defined as AAT components and used in electric vehicles, those will be covered here. Okay. And there were about 75 companies who got the approval across India. But the challenge, I'll honestly, this is an update that the challenge which they are facing is the domestic validation criteria of 50%. Okay. They're not able to meet that. Only few set of, less than even 10 players, 10 to 15 players are able to meet that. And, that's the reason why, they are quite aggressively working towards building up the ecosystem in India and manufacturing in India. Yeah. So the good thing of this PLI scheme is that they had also not only given opportunity to the standard manufacturers, but that which includes Mahindra, Tata, Ola, but they also gave opportunities for the non-automotive components to make an application under the scheme and dream big. So any company, there are two categories. One is the automotive segment and one is the non-automotive segment. So if any company didn't get the experience of, they had the experience of manufacturing in automotive segment, so either of the group companies, so in that case, they could file in the non-automotive segment and avail incentives on the same. So many companies, including Hop Electric, Boom Motors, and Okinawa, etc., got the approvals. The incentive computation is like this. So basically, the incentive is on the determined sales value. So determined sales value is nothing but the sales of that particular financial year, which is starting from FY24 to as compared to the FY20 financial year. And the incentive is on basically 13 to 16% of the same, right? In case of the component champion, in case of champion OEM, it's a huge number. So basically, for example, if the incentive is less, so if the DSV over a period of 5 years is less than 2,000 crores, so then the incentive is 13%. If it goes above 2,000 crores, so it would be 14% for 2,000 to 3,000. If it goes beyond 4,000, it would be 16%. And for example, if your cumulative DSV, okay, over a period of 5 years goes beyond 10,000 crores, so it would be, you'll get additional 2% of that 10,000 crores or whatever be the amount. Okay, and for example, if if the product is BEV or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, then in that case your incentive will further increase by 5%. So there's a huge chunk of incentive which you can avail. Again, in case of component champion, the same. If the component is being used in hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, in that case there will be an additional incentive amount of 5%. So companies like Minda, Eicher, Tata, Mahindra, Ashok Leyland got the incentives. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge for this automotive industry. They're trying to provide their incentive-wide PLI scheme, but meeting that 50% criteria, it's very difficult. That's what the players have been faced. All right. Drone and drone components. So basically for this, the idea is to make India global champion and a hub for drone by 2030. Okay. It's at a very nascent stage. You see the challenges, the reason by bringing in, because majority of the drones have been imported, illegally in India. Name it DJI or some company manufacturing in Paris or European company. They have been importing drones from China at a very cheaper cost, right? Illegally, and that's been the challenge, and that's the reason why they have first of all banned drones in India. Second, they want to even if there are manufacturers in India, right? Majority of the manufacturers have started with assembly, but now they are building up the Indian ecosystem wherein they're procuring the raw materials from the Indian manufacturers as well, trying to increase the domestic value addition. But there are a lot of challenges. Regulatory challenges were there. There were import related challenges were there. Raw material related challenges were there. Supply chain related challenges were there, etc. So this is just the start, for motivating the manufacturers or this new sector and giving a right direction to them, because there are multiple use cases of drone. We have personally, also invested in 3 to 4 drone companies, kind of closely worked with many drone sector players. This could be one of the schemes that could boost their confidence also financially. So they have given incentives to drone and drone components. Okay. So the criteria was very simple, that there has to be a minimum value addition of 40%, and then 40% should be on sales. Okay. If for any year that criteria is not met, you will not get the incentive for that particular year. And the criteria is pretty simple. The competition is pretty simple. It's incentive into sales minus purchase. So this is basically, this scheme would give incentive not on top line, but on the value additions, which will, ask the manufacturers to increase the value addition in India. Okay. And any company would get not more than 25% of the incentive for the 3 years. So the tenure for this particular PLI scheme is 3 years. And larger companies who are backed by players like Adani, Reliance backed, Esteria, Real India backed, Throttle, etc. Idea Forge is again for privately funded company. Arrow privately funded. Garuda Aerospace, well known in Chennai. They have got the incentives, right? So earlier there were no detailed guidelines, but during November 29th, the detailed guidelines were notified by the IFCI, wherein they got the PMA as well on board. That is, IFCI got the PMA, became the PMA. The value addition again 40%, as I mentioned, but yes, the idea is to increase that 40% over a period of time. And the good thing is that any MSME can file an application under this PLI scheme. Yeah, it is plus. I mean, Bangalore being a hub, there's a lot of companies in Bangalore who have applied and who could avail incentives. The budget outlay would increase over a period of time. The roadmap ahead. So quickly we'll take you to the roadmap ahead. The idea is to make, first of all, a global champion, create domestic value addition, right? Build up technology in India and enhance technology enhancement, and make it sustainable. So these are the four pillars, or maybe I'll say vision, which should be aligned for any proposed project. So while you are, for evaluating any PLI scheme, these are some, key points of consideration, which I've already mentioned before. One is the project products, eligible products, whether those set of products can be manufactured by the applicant or not. Second, the project feasibility, whether that project is in itself feasible or not. Leave aside PLI scheme approval or not, but whether the project is feasible or not. That's an advice which you need to give to the client. Third is the incentives. Are there any other incentives which are available or not? Fourth is the sources of finance, whether how the project would be funded by way of debt, by way of equity, etc. And the requisite approvals. What are the list of approvals which are required to make the factory up and running, and what is the timelines, etc. Okay. So so these set of requisite approvals, it's quite important to evaluate initially. Our opportunities, this is quite important. How we could help. You can be the project management consultants on end-to-end basis. That's where your value addition would lie. Quite important to see to it. The end objective has to be getting the incentives. Simple as that. To do a validation, to get the approval, and to get the incentives, and that happens as a project management engagement. Corporate finance, another opportunity. This is getting the incentive from the government, but when you're setting up a new project, there has to be a fundraising exercise that needs to be done. Valuation needs to be issued, right? Your certification needs to be done for availing your funding from either maybe equity or debt project funding. Other incentives, evaluating and assisting in availing various incentives, which is from the state government or from the central government. That also can be supported by a chartered accountant, also which includes your RODTEP or EPCG scheme, because a lot of PLI approved applicants who get the machineries from outside India and avail incentives for EPCG. Certifications, of course, this standard would not go away, wherein you need to avail statutory auditor certificate, independent CA certificate, assistance in preparing documents as management undertakings, board resolutions, etc. CA related documents, I'll be positioning that way. So on a broad level, these are the four arenas which are there. First, for the existing PLI schemes, if any one of you would have been supporting. Second, for the new PLI scheme, which would be in the pipeline, right? You can be a support to that, because these are 5-6 years horizon schemes. So this is a long-term association with your client, and this actually would you'll be associating or maybe providing a value add to them, which will make them interest more. A quick glance about for how we have helped. These are the experience which we have over a period of last 2 years, wherein we have filed more than these much number of applications across sectors, right? Yeah, happy to answer any queries which you have, right? If you feel you have any queries right now, you can answer, you can raise your question, or maybe also one-on-one if you want. We would be happy to answer. I hope the session was quite productive, and happy to help. Yeah, thank you.
Gautam, there were a couple of things on the chat box. I hope those are covered.
Yeah. So that I've answered. So those couple of questions I've answered.
Awesome. Great. So I think we have come to the end of the session. Thank you, Gautam. That was really a wonderful session. Thank you so much. I'm sure the knowledge that you have poured in to the members here, it is definitely going to be very fruitful for them, both in terms of knowledge as well as revenue. So thank you so much, Gautam, from the Bangalore branch of SIRC of ICI. And I also thank all the members who had joined for today's session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Shipaji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.